This film also had the creepiest Santa. And you can,
oh my god, yes!
I'll pick Andrew Garfield. Peter 3.
Peter 3.
Ooh, that comic book filter.
This green ball?
This green tennis ball is Vecna, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I didn't see it, but I know what you're talking about.
All right, the goal is not to cough too much.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
You know what? It's fine.
Shit.
It's normal. Everyone coughs.
Jesus, Murphy. Hey, Cinema Peeps.
Hey, Cinema Peeps.
Oh, it is cold season.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Right? That's the negative side to spring. The positive is, hey, great, spring is in the air. Spring is coming. No more winter. The downside, everyone gets sick again.
Yeah. And I was in huge denial. I was like, I'm not getting sick. And now I'm like, oh, god damn. The only thing that does make me feel a little bit better is it sounds like you said, the cold is going around. So it's not just me. But yeah.
It's still not fun.
No. And just make sure you drink your liquids.
Woot woot.
Although,
all the fluids.
I swear this is lemonade and not piss, but you know.
I
realize the color's not appetizing looking.
It looks kind of like water, but it's a little like, like lake water. Actually, that reminds me, there used to be a tea at David's Tea that you could make as an iced tea. We used to serve it as an iced tea called swamp water, and it looked kind of similar, but was a little greener. And it was good, but it was so like murky looking, and it was perfectly named.
That's funny. I like the idea of like, I don't know how I'm sick, and then drinking straight up lake water. I don't know.
I'm trying to be natural, so lake water's natural, right?
Yeah,
meanwhile,
the fishies,
all the parasites.
Yeah, yeah. You probably got a fucking old parasites. Like, delicious. Yep. Thank you. Yep. New home. We love it.
Yep. And I promise that Arnie is alive behind me here. He's just chilling.
You just had a little sick tummy.
Yeah, he's got a little upset tummy. So he's just hanging out with me today. So if he looks like he's not moving, he's just resting. I promise.
He's not dead.
Yes, no.
No, I can't blink with my other eye. Just this eye. Yeah, no.
Can you do that thing with your eyebrows where you like do the wave?
The wave?
Yeah. Kelsey can do it. It's crazy. Like you do. I can't do it.
It's a very exciting podcast for everybody.
Right? Because Jack Black does it in School of Rock, where he can like do like a weird wave with his eyebrows. Oh. Yeah, Kelsey can.
Unfortunately,
do it.
mine are just up, down, up, down.
Yeah, same.
Scrunch,
I can do
maybe?
like one or the other, maybe, but I have to concentrate really hard.
Look how fancy! I don't think I can do that. Nope.
No.
Nope. One try, and I was already done. I'm like, got it.
Wow, the content has improved so much on our podcast over these past 5 seasons. Hey guys,
we've nailed it.
We've nailed it.
I think today though we're doing an Oscar check-in, maybe.
Sure. Okay.
Hilarious.
This feels like that moment in school when your teacher comes into class and is like, okay, so who did the assignment? And you're like, no, I didn't, but I'll pretend that I did.
No. Well, you did see, we did talk about briefly last time, you had seen Wonka.
Yes.
And you said you were talking about Mean Girls,
yes.
music. I guess it's just called Mean Girls.
Mean Girls, yeah.
There's no other differentiating thing.
You just have to know that it's the musicale.
Yes. Kind of like Suicide Squad and The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I remember I was making that correction in front of my mom, and she's like, "Are you fucking like, what is wrong with you?" I'm like, "You have to understand, it's The Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad.
There's a difference,
right?" She's like, "I saw The Suicide Squad." I'm like, "Which one?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, "There's Suicide Squad and The Suicide Squad," and she's like, "I don't get it." And I was like, "What was happening in the movie? Just fill me in, and I'm sure I can figure it out."
Basically, was Jared Leto in it or not?
Right. I knew it was the Suicide Squad because she had mentioned the scene where Michael Rooker kills the bird. And she
Yes.
loves birds. So she was like, I'm very happy he died. I was like, yep. I was like, that is the Suicide Squad then.
Yep.
Nailed it. But yeah, that's kind of all I've been consuming, or at least attempting to, is some of the Oscar films. So
Yeah, you've really been hitting the ground running with that. You've been like racking them up like crazy.
I technically only watched 2 of the Best Picture nominations.
Okay.
And then I squeezed in 2 of the animated category.
Nice.
And then one of the short films, I think, from Wes Anderson.
Nice.
Because it's on Netflix.
Netflix.
So it appears I'm doing well, but watching a
Better
lot
than
of
me. I've
in-betweeny stuff.
Other than
But-
Barbie, which we've already dove into, I have not
Yes.
seen any of them yet. Granted, not a lot of them are available to watch for free. Don't want to be that cheapskate, but sometimes, especially when it comes to the Oscar films, you don't want to, buy a movie that you're not sure you're gonna like again.
Right. And as of right now, both Oppenheimer and Past Lives are now free on Prime, if you happen to own Prime. And what was my other thought? The Holdovers has now finally gone down in price, so I'm stoked about that.
Me too.
I think American Fiction is finally available to buy, and maybe same with Zone of Interest. So,
Okay.
again, I'm still holding out for a little cheaper, but I did discuss with some of my friends, since if they're interested in I think we were specifically talking about The Holdovers and American Fiction, that we would just bite the bullet and buy it, and they could give me $5.
Nice.
And I was like, that would work nicely. Friendship. But yeah, still holding out hope that maybe it'll get cheaper, but we'll see.
I'm assuming it will probably get cheaper after.
Oh, of course. But I'm not going to watch it after the Oscars.
Right? We want to see them before. That's the point.
Exactly. I don't have fucking time for that.
All right. Well, let's dive in. So, do you want to start with one of your Oscar watches that you've seen?
So, kind of like Kendra, I was looking for all the free ones first. No shade, but I'm looking for the free ones. So I watched Maestro, that's on Netflix for free.
Maestro.
And yeah, they have quite a few, and luckily they have a nice category of what is Oscar nominated, so very handy.
Nice.
Which tells the story of American conductor, I already forgot his name. Yeah, I'm gonna blame it on sick brain. I don't remember his name. Pop it down below. Whoever's editing, I think it's me. Because I forgot.
Played by Bradley Cooper.
Yes. Which he's nominated for Best Actor, and the lady who plays his wife for Best Actress, I believe. Yeah. But yeah, it tells the story of his life, kind of like his life and career as he's kind of ebbs and flows. He starts just writing songs for kind of Broadway, and then he still continued to do some Broadway hits. Again, they mentioned the film, but most notable one I thought was West Side Story. And then he kind of goes back to like being like full-time conductor. And so so it's a little bit about his career, but it's primarily about his relationship with his wife and kind of his
battle.
Nah, I guess. I don't know. Just basically journey? It's about their relationship and like the complexity of it. Yeah, because there's a lot of times that it's like they never say outright if he's gay or maybe bisexual, but that he just loves people.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems to have an affair with men, so I'm leaning more towards he's potentially gay. But he really, like, in the film, he really loves his wife and speaks very highly of her, so that's why I'm like, it could be bisexual. And it's just the fact because, like, a lot of it takes place such, like, early on.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that vocabulary back then.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite, but I mean, it's not offensively bad. I think, as I was boring Kendra with, I just think anything about any kind of movie that's a dramatization, or I think in the description of this one, it's a romanticized version of like a biopic. It's just not my cup of tea. Mm-hmm. I would just much rather watch like a 5-hour in-depth documentary, because it sounds like he has he's dead now. Like he's had a very interesting life.
Mhm.
And they do touch very lightly about like the struggles of like creativity. And so like I would just much rather hear about that than watch a dramatized version about it. Because like I said, I think the core of the film is his relationship with his wife and his struggles with his sexuality, which is, you know, unfortunately still a very hard topic today.
Mhm.
But like I said, for me, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Because like all I think about is seeing all the articles. To be fair, I haven't seen very many, but maybe just because I haven't been looking up a lot about Maestro. When anytime someone does do a biopic and being like, this is what they got wrong and right and da 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 da, and it's clear that sometimes they do, you know, milk it for the dramatic and the romanticizing of this person's life, when I would just much rather just, you know, see an in-depth thing about their life.
Right, yeah.
Yes, his sexuality is an important part of him, but it just felt like that was what the film was primarily focused on. And even like my friend commented, she's like, because I don't know this conductor at all, I don't know if Bradley Cooper like did a good job representing him.
Mm.
And I mean, they do show at the end of the credits like him, like some footage of him conducting.
Mm-hmm.
And so even like there is a big scene where he's conducting in a church, and it looked like he did, like just from like those two comparative clips, I'm like, yeah, they did a good job with the makeup, and it seemed like he did kind of stay true, at least in terms of his conducting. So
yeah.
And I think the only other thing is, I feel like unlike other biopics that might hold your hand a little bit, this one does not. So like I said, if you don't know anything about this person, surprise. Like you're going to learn very little bits and pieces about them. And I think the biggest thing is there's quite a few time jumps. So at one point, you know, you start his beginning career where he by chance gets a phone call to come conduct the American Orchestra for his very first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, they jump ahead to having kids, or jumping ahead to like, you know, he's a little more famous, jumping again to kids. And then like another jump of like, oh, he got caught in a scandal. And then it jumped to where he's clearly at his lowest doing drugs. Kind of again to like him conducting his orchestra, and how like his wife was like, oh, you have so much hate in your heart, da 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 da. To once again cut to him doing this orchestra, and then she's there to support him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, says to him, like, you know, you have no more hate in your heart, or da 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 da. Where I felt, I was like, well, how? How does he no longer have hate in his heart? Because I think part of it is like he obviously hated himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, which again, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But from like telling a story, I didn't see where he got better.
Okay.
You know, it was just, again, I think it was just like pinpointing very significant times in his relationship with his wife.
Just kind of glimpses into his life and milestones and stuff.
Whether that's, you know, intentional, where it's like, you know, we're not going to know the whole story, but here's like bits and pieces we do know, because one of the scenes where they do talk about, oh, the scandal that has come out, it's his wife, a friend, or his Bernard's or whatever sister, and then their daughter, played by Maya Hawking, talking about it. So I imagine, because I'm assuming his kids are still alive, that she would be able to have input on a scene like that.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just spitballing. I don't know if any of his kids had any like input into the movie. I'm just gonna, you know, take a guess.
Right.
But yeah, so it's just, again, it's not a terrible film. It's fine. But for me, biopic movies are just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, that's fair.
All.
Yep.
And then the other best picture we watched was Past Lives, which I'd recommend. It's an hour and 45 minutes, so already like
it's short and sweet.
Right? Love it. It's a romance film, which I can believe I'm not a huge romantic person, but you know, tug at my heartstrings, you can usually get me. But I think in terms of just like when I think of best picture Oscar nominations, I'm assuming there's gotta been a couple in the past, decades and years, but, I just felt like it's been a hot minute, for at least in my opinion. So
definitely.
I was pretty eager. I was like, oh, cool. Anytime there's like a slightly different category they don't always have in there, I'm pretty stoked.
Right?
And yeah, I thought it was a short and sweet, simple film. And I don't mean simple in a bad way. I think it just was it was just more unlike Maestro, where I was like, okay, what's happening now? I could at least follow this one. And it kept to the bread and butter, which was the relationship between these two people and how strongly connected they were.
Okay.
Because that one also has some pretty big time jumps. Because it happens over 24 years. And there's really only 2 big ones, and they're both like 12 years, but like, yeah, it still like made sense. And, I think, yeah, I thought it was really sweet. The story of like having the idea of like, oh, like all these what ifs, but I don't feel like it ended on a bummer. Like, I mean, it was a little bittersweet, but like, I don't know, not too much, but not too little, I thought. And yeah, it's the story of these 2 childhood friends who like kind of had crushes on each other, who then this girl immigrates to Canada, and then eventually she immigrates to the States on her own, and basically they reconnect after 12 years. And it's really funny because that entire sequence is because he still lives in Korea, and I'm assuming South Korea, and she's in New York. They have to do Skype a lot, so it was just very reminiscent when we would use Skype.
Yeah.
And so like, these friends trying to still connect, and then they were like, oh, let's do the long distance relationship thing, and they both were kind of like, well, she more so was like, no, I can't do that. And so there's this regret of like, oh, if we had just waited that year like we talked about, maybe I could have visited you, or vice versa kind of thing.
Right.
And then another 12 years passes, and again, they don't talk to each other. Then they reach out again, but at this point she's married to a nice Jewish white boy. And so he comes down to New York for a visit, and they hang out for a couple days in New York. Like I said, I think it's just like a sweet story of the what ifs and just having really strong connections with people. And I wish I could remember the word, but I don't. But the film centers around this idea in there's this word in Korean that basically means that you're like connected to this person through like multiple layers through all of your past lives, Right. And so like in this past life, yeah, they were friends who were like could have been lovers and struggled, but maybe in the next life, because they're, so deeply connected, maybe they are together, or maybe they're not. Maybe they just have a random chance encounter one time, and it's all just about these deep layers of connection. And, I just thought it was really sweet.
Nice. Awesome.
Like I said, short, sweet, love it.
Right?
But I guess not including Barbie, like Barbie's probably still going to be the highest at this point, but
yeah,
I think Past Lives is now my second.
Nice. Okay. I'll have to check that one out. You've piqued my interest in that one, so I'll have to watch it.
Yeah. Like I said, that hour 45 is so appealing.
Right?
Like, I'm excited to now that Oppenheimer's free, like, I'm excited to watch it. But god damn, we need to have a petition. No more 3-hour movies. Like, it should be illegal.
Right?
Like, don't get me wrong.
I would say if it surpasses 2 hours at the max, or 2.5, it should be a series, a mini series. Right?
Dem's the rules. We're not trying to, put a cap on your creativity, but we are.
Yeah.
Just no. But I want to hear about Wonka.
Okay. Ooh, all right. Let's dive into some Wonka. Yeah. Okay. Now I gotta recollect everything, because it's been a few weeks since I've seen it. But yeah, so I went into Wonka with an open mind. I'm a big fan of the original one, the Gene Wilder one, not the Johnny Depp one. Sorry, Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, but hard pass. The original is classic. So yeah, I was a big fan of that one. So I was curious to see how this one was going to go. And I heard the only review I ever heard from the new one was that Timothy Chalamet, I always want to call him Charlie. Timothy Chalamet did a really good job paying homage to Gene Wilder as the character. So I was like, cool, okay, that works for me. I'll go see it. And yeah, it was really well done. I think the thing that I liked the most about it was, so if anybody's seen musicals in the last few years, I would venture a guess, just because of the handful of people I've talked to about some of the musicals, a lot of people say that they're just a little too, like, Spirit Fingers. Like, you know, they're just a little too on, if that makes sense. Whereas, like, when you kind of think about some of the older musicals, it wasn't so much about more energy. You know, it wasn't that kind of more passion. Yeah. It wasn't so much that as it was just like, you were like, I think was it in school that we were kind of studying about that, where it was like, the whole point of a musical is you're just kind of expressing the emotions you're feeling in that particular part of the story through the song. It's not just this big performance and production that happens in the middle of a story. It's like this person's trying to convey their emotions that they're feeling, and so it's done through the use of the song, and the dancing just happens to kind of carry it along, sort of thing, right? Yeah. So I guess getting back to the point, this movie, Wonka, I feel like really did a good job of like bringing that back from the older musicals, which was nice, because it was just a nice nostalgia, but also refreshing break from some of the other like more energy musicals that have been out lately, right?
Forgive me, it's been a hot minute since I've seen the original Wonka, not the crazy ass Johnny Depp one.
Yeah.
Would it be considered a musical? Like, I remember like the Oompa Loompas had their, you know, they had their jams, but
yeah, because there's other songs in there. There's the iconic "Come with Me and You'll Be in a World of Pure Imagination," and then there's one that Charlie and his grandpa sing together. There's the "I've Got a Golden Ticket." Like, there's all these other songs throughout, and I think what's her name, Veruca Salt. She's also got a song as well. So yeah, it's a musical.
I just feel like the just kind of like takes over
for sure. Yeah.
I'm like, is there other songs?
Right. I feel like, yeah, as a kid, that's definitely the song that sticks out for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and Timothy Chalamet nailed it. I think he did a great job paying homage to Gene Wilder. I think it was kind of an interesting way to tell, like, would I say we needed a backstory on Willy Wonka? No, but I think it was a creative way of doing it, because a few years ago, there was a movie made with Robert Downey Jr. called Dolittle.
Yes.
And it's based off of, I'm not going to get the facts right for here. I don't know if it was a book previously, but there was a musical movie back in the day called Dr. Dolittle, of the same kind of storyline of this guy who could talk to animals, and he was a doctor, and he goes on these crazy adventures, and
Eddie Murphy,
before that even, but there is the Eddie Murphy version as well. But that older one is also a musical as well. And so okay, I forgot my point now.
Oh, I'm sorry, you got this.
That's okay.
You got this.
Okay, so I think the idea of Dolittle with Robert Downey Jr. was to kind of like give that backstory of this Dr. Dolittle character that had his movie, kind of like showing his adventures as being a doctor who could speak to animals and stuff. And so this Wonka reminded me of that, but I feel like they did it better than the Dolittle one.
I was gonna say, I heard very negative things about the Dolittle one.
Like it was okay. I think Robert Downey Jr. did a good job, but the story it was kind of messy. It wasn't cohesive, if that makes sense, or if it just didn't line up with, I think, the original one all that well that I can recall.
Well, I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard Doolittle as a musical or a book, which I mean, really should make sense. Because yeah, I joke, but like, yeah, I think of Eddie Murphy, and there's the guinea pig, and he's like,
yeah,
oh! And he's like, ah,
yeah,
ah! You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I
For
always
sure.
think of that. I think what just made me sad was I'm like, oh, this is like, to me, I was like, this is kind of like his first outing after Avengers.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh, that kind of bites, but you know,
right.
You're bound to have some duds, no matter how
Yeah.
good of an actor you are. It's going
Right.
to happen.
And I mean, Robert Downey Jr., you know, everybody knows him for Tony Stark and Iron Man, but honestly, he's got a lot of great other, like, performances in films, like, previous to the Avengers, like, when he did Chaplin, and there's a couple other ones that are really good, too. So, I feel like I said, his performance in Doolittle is really well done, but there was just something missing that just didn't quite connect the dots. And again, I don't, because the idea was it was along the same premise as Dr. Doolittle, but I'm not sure if it was meant to be an origin story or just some kind of like addition or spin-off of it. And the only reason I know about the original Dr. Doolittle is because it's one of my dad's favorite movies growing up. So yeah. But anyways, going back to Wonka, yeah, I just felt like they did a really good job of kind of like bringing that whole thing back. And it was an interesting story, like just to have that kind of I don't know, the whole point of the movie was just to kind of like reignite that spark of imagination and what it's like to have that wonder as a kid. And just like, you know, because that was the whole kind of thing with like the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, was like you got to go into this like chocolate factory and there was like this amazing world full of candy and just like all this crazy stuff. And so the idea they kind of theme the movie around is that like wonder and imagination and his spirit of just like keeping that alive. And it's really sweet because it has a connection to his mom too, and like him just trying to navigate a world that's very cynical and negative, and him being such a positive outlook person and just very aspirational, and he has all these dreams and stuff, and he is going to do everything he can to not let anybody tell him that he can't do his dream, even though he does run into a lot of different obstacles and stuff like that. So it's just very inspiring, and it was like to put it into in a world and a story that people know and love already was really nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thanks. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And I mean, Hugh Grant, that was the weird like part when I first saw the trailer. I'm like, this is that's kind of weird, but he actually is really funny as the Oompa Loompa. So don't let that deter you. It's really good.
And speaking of musicals, you also saw Mean Girls the musical.
Mean Girls, I did. Yes.
Which I mean, I still would like to go see it. Maybe one day. I don't know. Maybe I'll just have to wait like everybody else.
I would love to know your opinion on it.
I just thought it was really funny out the get-go when, a couple of my friends were like, oh, it's a musical? Everything's a musical nowadays.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess. But I was like, but I know, like, this has been on Broadway for quite a few years now. So to me, I was like, it's not a surprise.
Yeah, exactly. And because you've seen the original Mean Girls, right?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It's a classico.
Right?
It was really funny because I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so I got a lot of like Mean Girls interviews, like things with the cast and stuff, and Tina Fey, and I'm trying to skip most of them. I'm gonna go in with no expectations kind of thing.
Yes.
But I did watch one the other day where they're talking to Tina Fey about the fact that, like she and a couple of the other, teachers are, playing essentially themselves again, but not really, and talking to that. And she goes, yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like an alternate dimension kind of thing, She goes, but I think the important thing is that when we're writing something like Mean Girls, to not follow what's trending, because whatever is trending at the time, by the time you make a movie, because it's so long, like you can't have those things. And I think she was more speaking to the words of like certain like words and stuff. So she goes, if we just write it as like you're talking to people, then I think that's what, and I mean really I think that's what sticks out about Mean Girls, and what made it iconic was because it was its own thing.
Yeah,
that's so
sure.
fetch. No one was fucking
No one
saying
says that at all. Yeah, exactly, right?
So the fact that, they were doing it, But yes, I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, I'll do my best not to give you any spoilers, or give you too many expectations. But yeah, so I went into it with an open mind as well. Have seen obviously the original one. And on first watch, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think it was different. I think that's the best way to put it, in the best way possible. It was different. I like that they stuck to the original story. I like that they added a few, like the songs. I wasn't sure if the songs were gonna work, but with kind of like the way that they were telling the story through the musical, it worked. And I like that it's told from a different perspective, almost in a way, but not really. Like not told in a way that like completely changes the whole narrative. But I like that they kind of took, basically it's from the perspective of the two best friends and not Lindsay Lohan's character, like from the original one. It's told by Janice and Damien, which is interesting. And they don't fully narrate the whole thing. It just kind of starts with them being the ones, because they have a song at the beginning that kind of like brings you into the whole world, which is interesting. The lady or the girl who played Regina George, like, definitely stole the show. So like, applause to her. And I like the fact that she played her on Broadway too. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like, she killed it. Like, I was like, whoa, I was blown away by her.
Well, I don't know why, because I remember I definitely heard that before, because I remember you texted me that. But I think I stumbled upon her music on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So I know she's a good singer. So I remember when I saw the first trailer, I was like, is that same girl? So I knew kind of like, oh, they're obviously, they're getting the good people, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then learning later on that, oh yeah, that is, like, you know, she did play her on Broadway. It's like, oh yeah, like, that's such an easy decision.
Right? Yeah. And I like that when I was reading it too, they said Tina Fey really wanted her to transition into being the movie version of her as well. So I think that's pretty cool that she picked her, like, personally.
I mean that's high praises, you know, from Tina Fey.
Yeah.
But I wonder, sorry, because you said you were reading something. Did it say, like, if that was always the goal to make another, like, Mean Girls, or?
I didn't see. If I did, I don't remember, but I didn't. Okay. I don't recall that. But I don't know. I wonder if, because, like, having seen the movie now, I'd love to actually go and see the Broadway version, because I feel like, as much as you said, like, we don't want to follow what's trending and stuff for the movie, I feel like they did modernize certain bits. Because, like, again, I don't want to reveal too much because I want you to go into it with an open mind, but I just feel like they kept some themes from the original movie, because when we were teenagers, when that movie came out, it was relevant to the struggles and the insecurities and things that we were going through. Right. And that's still relevant today with a lot of stuff, but I felt like some of it just didn't line up properly, or just wasn't, like, it kind of didn't seem like it aged well, I guess, if that makes sense. But then again, I'm also not a teenager nowadays, so I don't know, maybe some of that stuff still works, but I felt like, God. I felt like some of the stuff that they were, specifically Gretchen's character, like, she kept very true to Lacey, I can never pronounce her last name.
Yeah,
but, you know,
Chabert? Yeah.
Chabert. Lacey Chabert, yeah.
Yeah.
She kept very true to her character, and I felt like, I don't know, again, I'm not a teenager nowadays, but that stereotype doesn't seem like it exists nowadays, I guess, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, to me, that didn't line up well, but obviously this is the world of Mean Girls, so that one I could kind of, like, let go. And then there's a song they sing at the Halloween party that, like, very much stood out to me as, like, the thing that, like, a lot of people, especially, but kids, our teenagers, are kind of, like, dealing with, as far as, like, what's the word? Just, like, the pressures of high school, I guess, or, like, the status quo kind of thing, or, like, how you're supposed to act and dress in nowadays. Like, that seems to be such a big, like, theme. So I like that in that sense, they kind of kept things modern so that it's still relatable to teens nowadays, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, not quite teens, but I don't know if you've seen this, but there's, like, 6 and 9-year-olds who are like, this is my skincare routine. And they're using, like, anti-aging, like, lotions and potions on their faces. And you're like, you're actually damaging your face.
Yeah, your skin hasn't, like, fully, like, developed yet.
Right? So, I mean, this idea of always, like,
pure.
fitting in status quo, like, I think that's just always going to be... That's always going to be a thing. That sounds awesome. Yeah, yes. I just don't know when I'm going to have a chance. I mean, it might just have to be a home watch, but you know what? That's
Maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
That'd be okay.
Definitely, I don't know if your friends would be interested in watching it with you, but it's a fun one to watch with other people. So if you do have a watch party with your friends to watch it, highly recommend it. But yes,
Hell
I'm
yeah.
excited to hear your thoughts on it because overall, I'd say it's worth a watch. If you enjoyed the original one, and if you're not too much of a diehard where you're gonna like nitpick it and be like, why did they have to blah blah blah? Like if you can kind of see it as its own entity, but still enjoy the same kind of jokes and the same stereotype kind of things, or just the same tropes, I guess is the better word. Then it's a fun watch. I liked it.
Hell yeah. I think that was my fear because I was trying to stay blind, but I just saw so many like YouTube videos being like, this is what they did wrong. And I'm like, no, shh. I just want to experience this thing and I will make my own judgment. But for fuck's sakes.
Zoom.
Yeah, I hope to see Mean Girls.
Yes.
At any capacity. I don't know when, how, or why, but I'll be happy to share my thoughts once I get to
Excellent.
see it.
I just checked on Apple TV. It's available to rent for $24.99, but I'm hoping that will probably change pretty soon.
Do they think that's an actual renting price?
Yeah, right? Like, and the worst part is it says you can buy for like either $26 or $29.99. So you're like renting it for like $4 or $5 cheaper.
No. Anyways, I think that'll do it for our super large episode.
Yeah. Well, we will note that for a while we're going to change a few things on the podcast, and we're not going to be doing stuff weekly every Tuesday, Talkie Tuesdays. We're going to do every so often. So if you don't see us on some Tuesdays, it's because we're changing it up a little bit. And that way we'll have hopefully some more time to watch more content and have more things to talk about.
Exactly. And it's not going to be a permanent thing, but yeah, I just think, especially like something like today, like we had so much to talk about. I just think it's really nice and helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
But I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I think I don't, my brain can't function. I don't know when this episode's coming out. Might be the week before the Oscars. We might have one more check-in before the Oscars. I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out as we go. But yeah, if you liked today's episode, consider leaving us a little like-see and leave a comment in the comments down below. Have you watched the new Mean Girls or Wonka? And how are you doing on your personal Oscar journey?
Yes.
If you are doing that.
Hopefully better than me.
And consider subscribing to Two Pretty Cool Gals. And my voice just sounds like it's getting hoarser and hoarser. Not sound good, but that's okay. I'm alive.
Perfect time to start wrapping it up.
Exactly. But anyways, guys, watch all the content and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Monkey.
Monkey. And